Hey everybody, I'm Randall Wyatt. I'm a local hip hop artist here in Portland, Oregon. You also might know me because I started an organization back in July of 2020 called Taking Ownership PDX, where we provide reparations in the form of free repairs for Black-owned homes and businesses in Portland. And I get a lot of love for the work I'm doing with that organization, but I don't think I've told a lot of people about how rewarding it's been for me and some of the connections it's made for me. Not only am I my own boss, I make a living doing the most rewarding work I've ever done in my life, but it also introduced me to this lovely woman, Annie Moss, who changed my life and my son's life forever in a positive way. And just to give you a little background on how so, back in August of 2020, I got an email through my Taking Ownership PDX email address, and it said, transferring my home to Black ownership. And the first email slipped through the cracks, and I never responded to it. And so that would have really sucked if she didn't follow up. But she followed up a week later and was like, I really want to do this. I want to transfer my home to a Black family. It's in a historically Black neighborhood, the Albina neighborhood, and I don't want to make any money off of it. I just want to put a Black family back in that neighborhood. And that blew my mind, and so I had to get on the phone with her and see if she's being real or if she's scamming me. And I got on the phone with her, and she was being honest. And a few months later, actually, we closed on the house. Me and my brother and my sister-in-law, we all put up on this house, and that was on December 4th of 2020. So this is the 1-year anniversary. So I wanted to give her a voice and talk to her a little bit about why did she do this? How did this come about? And so we have some questions for her. So Annie, first thing, how did you hear about Taking Ownership PDX?
I was trying to think about this, and honestly, don't you just feel like you were everywhere last year? Like, I can't even put my finger on it, but it's like through Instagram. I have a restaurant, so I run like the business Instagram, and I tend to connect a lot with local businesses and nonprofits, and my guess is you were just in my feed constantly.
Yeah, you couldn't escape me.
Yeah.
You still can't.
Yeah.
I was just an Oregonian. So. What made you reach out to me, and why were you having issues transferring your house to a Black family?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I had this idea that I wanted to transfer ownership of my house to a Black family, and I started down this path of research. I was researching contacting realtors, contacting lawyers. We have a customer at the restaurant who is a PSU professor who specializes in housing justice in Portland. So I was just like reaching out everywhere, just trying to figure out if anybody could tell me, can I sell this house in a non-traditional way, not profit maximizing, and literally dead end after dead end after dead end. Like, really? Nobody had any suggestions, or, I couldn't connect with anybody who had any real suggestions. So I was like, maybe taking ownership on your board. I mean, that was my first thought, was that like you maybe would have somebody on your board who's like a radical realtor, or somebody who has like some kind of expertise, or who's seen this done in other cities. So that's why I first reached out to Taking Ownership. I had no idea that it was going to actually just be the answer to my question.
Yeah, and it seemed like we got it done pretty easily. It was so easy. It wasn't that difficult.
No.
And by the way, I just want to say, because of her generosity, because of what she did, we were able to walk into close to about $500,000 in equity. That's life-changing stuff right there. Let's see. So, when did you know that you wanted to transfer your home, and what prompted you? Like, how did this idea come up?
Yeah. So I, when I moved to Portland, I'll try to tell this without it being a really long story, but I inherited wealth through family business that, sort of just like existed when I was born. I would happen to be born into this wealth, and spent my adolescence and young adulthood feeling lots of weird feelings about it, and not really knowing how to make sense of those weird feelings, how to put those weird feelings into action. And when I moved to Portland, I got hooked up with an organization called Resource Generation. Resource Generation organizes young people with wealth and class privilege who want a more equitable distribution of wealth in the world, in society. And so through Resource Generation, I just did a lot of sort of consciousness raising of myself around wealth, tracing my own wealth privilege through lineages of race and white supremacy and all these different things, and also started to develop more of an analysis of how I would want to move money towards social justice and how to sort of think about what that means. So one of the things I did with resource generation was a giving plan, where I was trying to just, like, that's something a lot of people do in resource generation, is come up with a giving plan of how you want to move your assets. And it could be through regular annual donations, it could be through bigger moves. And one of the things that I had identified for myself as being a really, really meaningful symbol of my privilege was home ownership. I was able to buy this house right out of grad school, younger than pretty much any of my other friends were able to own homes in a city that had, you know, very high housing prices. I mean, when I moved here, it was already like the market was, things were pretty expensive. But also home was so important to me. I love having a home. I love having a safe, comfortable place to live that's mine, being able to like create it the way I want it. And so it was just something for me that both represented this privilege I had, but also something that was really positive in my life. And it felt like a really meaningful place to try to do some change, like make some change. So that was kind of it. I think I just was like, all right, let me just try to like do something around this home. And I think also being aware of the fact that this is a gentrified neighborhood.
Very much so, yeah.
There were just a lot of things for me where I was like, this feels really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember when on our first conversation, I asked you, why do you want to do it? When I was still very skeptical. Like, why do you want to do this? Why? You know, and I remember you said, well, it's going to make me feel more human. And that you hate capitalism. Is there any other reasons why it's important? I mean, you just gave us a lot of reasons. Is there anything else that comes to mind? Or is that pretty, I mean, that's big. That's enough.
Yeah, no, I think those are both, yeah, I think those are both it. I think it was around just wanting to shift my relationship to money and capitalism. And yeah, I like that I said it would make me feel more human. No, it did.
That made me actually really trust the process. So I was like,
nice.
okay,
Yeah.
What was the feedback that you got from like people you told?
People had a lot of questions. I think, you know, in my RG community, like, so grateful for my RG community, resource generation community, because they're like down for as radical as you want to get around moving resources around. And it was such a supportive community to just have some people be like, yeah, cool, that's cool. Like, you're not like nuts. The people I was most nervous about telling were my parents. Talking to my realtor friend who ended up helping us out with the, you know, closing the deal and everything.
Alex Ney, right?
Yes, Alex Ney.
Shout out. And Lauren Goucher, my realtor. Shout out to her.
Yes. So I was a little bit nervous about telling Alex. I was nervous about telling my parents. I was most nervous about telling my financial advisor. Because I'm just like, he's like a capitalist. Like, that's his game. So and there was some skepticism. I think there were people who had questions about, like, are you doing this in a way that's going to minimize your tax burden? Could you do it in a way that will, minimize your tax burden more? And which is classic wealth maximizing, right? Like, I have plenty and still people are trying to get me to like hang on to it as much as I can. But I think ultimately everybody was convinced by my conviction. And I think mostly people were just like, are you being stupid? And I was like, no, I'm not being stupid. And so it was fine. And luckily my parents are super cool. Like, I was able to kind of talk with them about how these are the values they gave me. Like, this might not be the way that they would have thought to live out these values, but all of this is their work. Yeah. I'm just taking it another step because that's what young people are supposed to do.
Yes. Supposed to evolve and
get radical.
I love it. So we talked about the process was pretty easy. It was a brand new process for me.
Shockingly easy.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that process? Because I actually did an interview on KBOO about a year ago, and somebody called in and was like, wanted to do the same thing you've done, but they didn't know if it was even possible. And it is possible. Just so you know, it's possible. What did that process look like?
Yeah, it is possible. I'm not sure if it would ever look the way we did it ever again. Like, I don't know if other people would do it the way we did it, but the way we did it is you, because of your connections and your work, have connections with realtors. I've purchased homes before. I had a realtor friend, and I feel like they both stepped in and helped a lot. The decision I made was to sell the house for the remaining mortgage and to gift the equity. So it was just largely a matter of kind of navigating, like checking boxes with our accountants to make sure that a gift like that would be, I don't know. I don't really know what we were checking on. I was just asking. I was like, is this okay? Can we do this? So yeah, I think we both checked with our accountants. We both had realtors who kind of helped us, do all the process, like the inspection. I mean, in a lot of ways, it was a really normal home buying process.
Pretty much, yeah.
The only difference was that I never advertised the home. There was no competitive bidding, and there was this portion of the equity that was gifted to you. But otherwise, I think we did all the normal things.
Normal thing.
Yeah.
I don't think you can advertise, I want to sell this to a black family, right?
Probably not.
So
I don't know.
That's one thing you can't do. I'm pretty sure there's rules against that, laws against that. Let's see.
Well, and I guess I'll say one other thing about connecting with you, that one of the things in the process before I met you that I was trying to figure out was how to, even the question of how will I find a family. I didn't want to do an application process. I didn't want there to be some kind of weird, I'm trying to pick out the best candidate. So I was waiting for fate to kind of step in. And so I think that's part of what made it feel so easy, is that as soon as you were like, I might want to buy your home, it was just like, okay, cool, great. This is perfect. It was I needed some kind of fate to just happen and make it all work. And it really did. Yeah.
And it's so wild because just a few years earlier, I was in Portland Housing Center's first-time home buying program, and I wasn't able to complete it because I was just so discouraged by the market. And there was no way, as a single dad, I was going to be able to afford it. And then here I go, starting a organization around home ownership, black home ownership, while I'm renting a crummy apartment in Felony Flats. And here we go. It's just amazing how the universe works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, any last words? Any call to action for people who are in your position, privileged, who have the ability to potentially do something similar to what you did for me?
Yes. Yeah, totally. I would say that for people in my position I think something like this could happen for so many different types of people, whether you're in a position like me where you can, I could afford to gift a fairly sizable amount of equity to Randall and was super happy to do it. But I think there are lots of there are people who are starting to try to make movement around fundraising for down payments for black families to purchase homes. I'm working with a group of people right now where we're trying to materialize something along those lines to organize more folks with privilege who specifically I think can identify with housing as a source of privilege, and who are interested in sharing that, sort of sharing the benefits of that privilege. And the one thing I would say also that I think was really a really important lesson for me in this process was, there was a moment right before or while we were, doing the transaction where I was like, oh, am I being stupid? Is this, it's scary. I'm is this scary? This is sort of, I've been taught that these financial resources are my safety net. It's my security. This is, that's what you're told in this world. Money is security. And so to sort of part ways with this chunk of money, I was feeling really nervous. And there was a day that we were here. I can't remember why we'd come here. And we were standing out back chatting. And I realized oh, I now have another person in my community, and we have this really strong link through this weird thing that we did that bonded us, and that made me feel so secure. That felt like safety to me. And so I think also just thinking, I would encourage people to think about that because it is scary it's scary to let go of money.
Yeah.
But there's lots of other good stuff that you make space for.
I talk about that often in interviews about breaking the individualistic mindset that capitalism breeds, and thinking about group economics, thinking about community. And what I've done with taking ownership, I feel so safe in my community now because of the love and respect I get now. So yeah, that's definitely. And I actually have one more question because of that. We made a post last year when the house, when we officially closed on the house, and it got a lot of love. And did you get any feedback from that? Did anything happen since then for you?
The biggest thing that's happened, I had some folks reach out who were interested in doing similar things. There have been some other people in resource generation who have been getting creative with their home sales. So that's cool. I know some other people in that community who have been trying to maybe not do exactly the same thing, but take inspiration and do similar things. And one thing that happens is people just randomly recognize me all the time, and they're like, "Why do I know you?" I'm like, "It's probably that post." But yeah, so I've been contacted by a number of people who are thinking about doing similar things or have done similar things.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, and the absolute last question. Did you pick this pink trim color?
I picked the pink color. I picked the pink trim and the yellow.
I love the yellow. I mean, I love the combo. I'll probably keep it for a while. The yellow especially.
It's one of my friends described it as like birthday cake.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
This is very me. Sorry.
No, it's great. I love it. Well, happy anniversary.
Thank you. Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Oh.